What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Today we are going to be doing some kind of random reef questions Q&A. So if you guys do have any questions as we go, as always, just shoot away in the comments. Oral, aka Reefing with O, will be joining us in a few, so it's waiting for him to connect. So that should be pretty quick. And yeah, how the heck is everybody doing today? Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful week. The tank is happy. Hopefully things are good. If you guys watched my last video update on the tank, overall things are doing pretty good. However, I have noticed my Copperband potentially picking at my torch, so I'm going to start keeping an eye at him. I see him just like pointed straight down looking at it a lot, so a little bit hesitant there, but hopefully there's no big issues there otherwise. Otherwise, the office tank kind of out of scene, but beside me had a lovely bit of cyano and algae issue, and I kind of decided to take the hammer approach on that one. And I just dosed some fluconazole as well as some ChemiClean, and basically 4 or 5 days later the tank looks awesome again. So I normally don't like to do the chemical approach, but there's one of those things where I'm like, hammer, done. 3 or 4 days later the tank looked from crap to wonderful. So I mean, sometimes it's worth getting that way. Port Wolf, I bet his name on Chris has one that isn't named it. You never know. You never know. The Roy Coral. Daily Reef and $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Much appreciated. Your tank is looking pretty sweet in the update. Thank you, Reef Addict merch. I'll probably do an update on this tank now that it's looking good again after the hammer approach of fixing everything. Planet 3D, good evening. Got my cyano taken care of. What did you use, Tracy? Did you use... Okay, I actually get asked a lot of time on what's the best approach to deal with cyano. Normally, actually same with Dino, a bunch of these ones, because a lot of people say don't do water changes. I personally always do one, and I suck out whatever I can at the time. So I'll do like a 1 bucket water change with a little hose, and I'll suck out as much nasty as possible. That when you're treating it, you have less that you're fighting with. So that's always been my approach, and it's worked pretty well. Forever to shame me in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where you'll sit there for ages where you don't deal with it, and then one day you just get fed up and you just gotta do it. Other question I was asked earlier is like, does cyano bother corals? They kind of asked because I said I'm not too worried about it in my tank, the little bits that I had. Now, if it's like you have mats of it and it's overgrowing your corals and taking over, then yes, it is going to bother corals. But if you have the little sparse bits here and there on the sand bed, or just like the bases of things where it's not actually growing on top of the coral, then it's not that big of a deal. So it depends how extreme it is. On mine, like I have some cyano in there, but it's minimal, right? It's not like you see it everywhere. So super minimal. So I have personally, it's not really enough to worry about it. I'm not really going to chemi clean the whole tank over that. Now, if it was spread all over the place and growing over stuff, then I would take the hammer approach and deal with it that way. Port will flow in water chemistry. So I question the whole water flow thing. I've read this a bazillion times. And the 2 spots in my tank that have it are very close to high flow. So one spot was where their dead skeleton was from the one, whatever the one on the tropic aquarium bucket, where I lost that guy, at least most of it. So that's the spot I have cyano. And the other spot was under the MP60 back corner affiliated tank where all that suction's coming from. So both those spots are a lot of flow. So I don't fully buy the whole low flow thing in cyano. Economical Reefer, hello from UK, hello from Canada. It's taken over a little bit too much. Yeah, if your cyano is getting too bad, it's taking over, get a little water change hose, suck out as much as humanly possible, and then do like a chemi clean or similar treatment. Now, when you do that, it is important to add oxygenation to the tank. Because the chemi clean is going to suck oxygen out of the water, and you don't want to starve out your fish. So it is important to add it. Now, if you have an air stone, so I just use actually this guy in there, so it's just like a little bubbler, since it was in reach. So I use the air bubbler and I did that to add in tons of bubbles. Or the other thing you can do, take the cup off your skimmer and just let it overflow. I'll normally put a bucket or something upside down or like a bowl on top of it so that all the bubbles just overflow back into the sump. It doesn't make a mess. But doing it that way is still going to add all that oxygen to your tank, and it's going to work well. Hello, good sir. Welcome to the live stream.
Hi. Dev?
Welcome. You made it. Welcome, Mr. Reefing with O. I lost you. Easy come, easy go.
Am I live?
You are live.
Ooh.
That's what happens when you're late.
How are you doing?
Excellent, thanks. How are you doing? Let me get you resized in there. Beauty. So was just talking about ChemiClean and kind of my approach to doing it. How are you? Do you use ChemiClean? Do you use the hammer approach for dealing with cyano?
I do. I haven't used it in a while though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just let the cyano go away.
That's fair. See, that's the other thing. Like, if it's not bad, if it's not taking over your corals, then exactly, just let it go away on its own. But if it's overgrowing stuff and getting crazy, then it's kind of I want to treat. That's kind of my thoughts.
My thoughts too.
Yep.
My thoughts too.
Other random updates. A few people are asking me about the calcster. I've been 3D printing random attachments to it, trying to make it mix better and get it kind of like not quite a slurry, but something in the middle. And I've got it closer, but not quite. I still want it like a little bit more potent. So it's like, I'm gonna say 80% of the way there, but it's not 100% of the way there. So I think my next step that I might do is try getting a higher RPM motor. I believe the stock one's 10 or 12 RPMs. So I think I'm going to find one that's kind of like 15 to 30. Because a lot of these designs, they work, but there isn't really enough lift to give it that little bit of So I think I'm going to try that. So that's my other thoughts.
Which calcster are you using?
I'm using the Avast K2 currently.
All right. So I use the Avast Marine.
Yeah.
So I have the original one, the smaller one. And
Yeah.
Alex, when I was in Reefapalooza, Chicago, Alex made me, so he basically made some fins
Mm-hmm.
that help stir the calc, which made it a little bit more potent. But I also contacted Avast Marine and had them build me a shorter one.
Hey,
so
that works too.
The calc, so the calc is not, so with the fins and the fact that it doesn't, it's a little bit still potent.
Yeah.
Before it exits, I think it works. I'm still a little scared of the short one, so I think I might use the short one without fins. But I do like
Yeah, shorter's actually a good way to do it. Because I don't want the powder directly in my tank, but I still want a little more milky going into the tank. So that's kind of my thoughts. So shorter is actually a really easy solution because mine is very potent up to the last couple inches. It's like it just needs a little more oomph. And I've tried adding tons of different paddles, tons of different things. So I keep just experimenting with it.
And they didn't charge me. I mean, I don't know anyone at Avast Marine. They didn't charge me any extra to make it. I just told them how short I wanted it, and they didn't charge me any extra for the shorter one. It did take a little bit more lead time, but it was fine. It wasn't any extra.
Oh, that's all right then. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. I almost wouldn't mind a taller one, but again, I need a taller motor because I have mine on a stand now just to get high enough to get through like the existing hole in the stand to go to the next chamber.
So I have mine. So it's in my new setup because I fitted everything yesterday, 2 days ago. So it fits perfectly. I think I'm going to need some more flow in my sump because where the dosing lines are, I don't think there's enough flow where things are going to settle. So.
Yeah, on mine, I put a power head there, just like a small little Nero 3, slightly overkill. But all my dosing goes in there, so it gets mixed up really fast, which I think helps.
That's what I'm thinking. And mine is going to sit right in my sump. Nothing fancy.
Perfect.
Nothing fancy. Hey, I have a question for you.
Ask away.
So first, I see someone saying I'm sweating. Yes, I just ran home from work. And
I appreciate you busting it to make it.
So I've asked a few people about this, but I have a sump. It's a huge sump. It's a 4-foot tank, 4-foot stand, and the sump is 40 of the 48 inches, but there's basically only one level. And I've asked Greg and a few other people, and they say it's fine, like just use it. But there are no baffles. It's just one water level. Actually, the baffle is so low, it's like 4 inches. It's basically unusable because I don't know any skimmer that's going to work in 4 inches of water properly. So what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as long as your sump can hold the capacity, I would up it a little bit so that it's whatever your skimmer height is. Like you only need one baffle sump personally, and that's just for the return chamber, just for your ATO, so you keep things stable, right? The rest of them are just like to compartmentalize things, which I don't think is required. It's kind of nice to have open flexibility. Like if you have a refugium, it's kind of nice to have it separated. But aside from that, I don't really think you need the baffles.
So there are no so basically it's one baffle.
Yeah,
So basically the entire sump is going to be one water level. Well,
yeah,
the entire usable section of the sump, what it's one level throughout the entire sump. So,
yeah.
um,
That's okay.
yeah, I think I'm
You,
going to run with it.
yeah, if you need it higher, just get a chunk of acrylic cut and put it in front and just raise it up an inch or two. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it'd be good.
I think so far the Tunzi, I'm using the Tunzi because it's so sensitive to
Yep.
the water level.
Hmm.
It's been fine. So I think so far the last few days it's been fine.
That's good. Hey, which tens are you using?
Osmolator 3155.
I finally got one, eh?
Finally,
Yes. Sadly, finally. Yeah, I don't know why I don't have none of these. The pump died on my other one, so it took me ages, and I finally decided to get one of these. They're like the tried and true ones that I had years ago. Then I sold it and regretted it, and then now I have one again. I haven't got
so
around to installing it, but
I love the Hydros one, but I just think the Hydros is a little, not that there's anything wrong with it, but the Hydros and the ATK, they are not as sensitive to the water level. The
hmm,
Tunzi, as soon as it drops below that black optical eye,
yep,
it starts to refill. So
hmm,
that's why I went with it.
yeah. No, it's a good way. Yeah. So I'm using the Hydros right now, and sometimes it seems to overfill, or it times out, and then it doesn't fill enough. So sometimes I just manually flick it off and on again. And I'm just lazy. I just want it to work. So current experience. Okay, a couple questions from the chat about keeping alkalinity stable in a nano tank. On a nano tank, I would just use a doser. It's easiest way. Everything's hidden in your stand, or wherever else you have your little airline or your little RDI tube coming over to dose the edge, and just tweak it from there. Test once a week, tweak your dosing up and down. I wouldn't really bother with anything else in a nano tank. It's just going to add more complication.
I've my kid's nano tank. I've actually not kept anything stony in that tank. It's mostly LPS and softies. So I've taken the doser off that tank. So it's just
Yeah.
water changes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bother with a skimmer on like a 20 or 30 gallon. Just do a water change once a week and you're covered. Uh,
I have a skimmer, but a little Tunzi skimmer, but I think it's mostly for aeration.
True.
It doesn't really skim much. And if I tune it to skim, then I have to. It's another thing I have to watch for a nano. But
Yeah.
that tank is 25 gallons, and with the rock, I think it's probably 12 or 13. So I
Hmm.
just do 80% water changes on that thing once a month, once every 6 weeks, and it's fine.
Perfect. Okay. Reefing is my therapy. Hey Dev, have you ever used Lugo solution on hammers? If so, describe how you use it, like how many drops per X gallons? I only use iodine. So Lugol's is a brand of iodine. I only use iodine generally when fragging corals. So if I'm cutting up stuff on a saw, a lot of the times I'll dip it in iodine slash saltwater afterwards, just because it's kind of works prevent any infection from cutting it. I've never measured it. I literally just dump it in until the water changes to that like brownie sepia tanny color, and then leave it in there for a few minutes. Maybe give it a couple swishes, and then put it back in salt water. So I've never measured it. As for dosing the tank iodine, I do a few drops randomly to my tank. I don't do it quite every day, but it does help zoas in certain corals. So I will randomly dose a few drops. But I'm gonna say a dropper full would be the max, but it's probably like 4 to 8 drops in like 150 to 200 gallons roughly. But I'm bad for not necessarily measuring. I'm kind of like, yeah, that looks about right. How about you? You ever use iodine?
I have not. I have a bottle of Lugos that's been sitting there for years. That's probably expired now, but I think there was once I did, and whatever. I think someone made a video. I think it was Billy Pipes made a video about how to use it, and I followed his instruction, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't save my hammers that were getting brown jelly, and I probably waited too late. But
Mm-hmm.
I've used it one time, and I can't remember what I did, so I don't think I can offer any help in that regard.
Yeah, that's fair. Aussie Down. I purchased an Aquamatic pH meter. Have you had any experience with these? Only review I can find are German. I have never heard of it. I just Googled it just to see. And yeah, first time I've seen it, so I have zero experience there. But it looks like basically a pH probe with a standalone reader for it.
Mm.
Uh,
Hey, speaking of new equipment, have you seen that Parker's Reef review where I think it was the Reef Factory salinity probe or new salinity probe from Reef Factory?
I haven't seen his review, but
Ooh, don't tell me you have one.
well, I'm googling it to see what it looks like. Okay, so no, oh, that's like a standalone one as well. I
Yep.
had to Google it because I had some like China company that keeps emailing me, wanting me to like review their testers. But
Yep.
no, it's not that one. It's something different. So
Yep.
that
So
one looks like a little standalone. I like the digital screen on it. It's kind of nice. But plug-in standalone probe.
yep. And they make KH meters, they make other things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, it'd be good. Let me know if you like it. Okay. Piotr Dizrezes, I just butchered your name. Hey Devin, I have a question for you. Planning on upgrading my Red Sea 250 to 625. Would you recommend using most of my old water or make up 100% new water, possibly dose PO4 and O3? I would do a mix. Whenever I've upgraded tanks, I will generally prep the new tank and I will fill up the new tank with water. And then I'll mix, like I'll take a chunk of water like every couple days or every 4 or 5 hours, but just take like a bucket of water and move it from one tank, dump it in the old tank, take water from that one and move it to the new one. So you're kind of doing a big water change on the old tank and you're moving some of that water into the new tank. And then it kind of levels out the parameters between the new tank so that once you do a water or once you migrate all your livestock over, nothing gets shocked. That's how I've done it, but I also do that so the tank can run, it can clear, I can dump some bacteria, like all that type of stuff as well. So I like that way. So the tank's 100% working, there's no leaks, everything's good, and then you just kind of basically get a big water change out of the deal and then level your parameters out between the two water systems. That's what I would personally do. AJ Riles, we have used your peroxide dip videos and it brought some torches back to life on the edge of death. Excellent. Love it. Peroxide is some magic there. You got to be a little,
Peroxide.
yeah, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Like Euphilia works well. The only thing it hasn't worked well with are like some sensitive acros. In those cases, I'd do a very short dip, like a smooth skin acro, but they don't like any dips, period. So food for thought there.
I've been thinking about some of these methods and things that you've been talking about. And so, my tank hasn't arrived yet, but I have the sump up and running with a temporary tank. And my thinking is once the tank comes, I'll just put it on the stand, connect the sump to it. I have rock in the sump in a cryptic zone that cycled. But man, I'm looking in the tank and I already have Aptasia, already have a bunch of pests, even though I use dry rock and just got a couple of corals from people. So
Mm-hmm.
can I really keep pests out? I'm frustrated already, and I haven't even set up the tank yet.
You need to be dedicated to not ever get past. Like you literally have to quarantine everything that goes out. Like they're gonna happen. You just need to minimize as much as possible.
How do you manage Aptasia? I know this is supposed to be us taking questions, but I have questions for you.
We can do both. It's fair game, man. Whoever wants to ask questions, go for it. Aptasia. I went for the big battle on Aptasia using F Aptasia. I also added Nudimax, and I also have Copperbands. Now I don't have Aptasia problems anymore, but there is a couple that exist, but like you have to look hard to find them. So you don't just look at them and see them. Like there's like a couple crevices or cracks that have them. So overall, yeah.
I've been trying to get Copperbands, and I haven't been able to get them to eat, and I've just gotten so frustrated and thinking I'm just killing. I don't know. I told my LFS that when they have one that's eating, call me.
Yeah, so make sure they're eating mysis in the store, tip number one. Tip number two, when you actually have them at home, if they're being finicky, I find most have been good with mysis, but the odd one that hasn't. Manila clams I found works really well. Like go to a seafood market and get some fresh manila clams and throw them in the freezer. Just throw one in the tank every few days. I found those have worked with every copperband I've tried them with is like the magic until they start eating other stuff.
Do you have tridacna clams that you're worried about?
I had one big beautiful clam, but somebody ate it. So no clams at the moment. But
I have one clam that I'm trying to hold on to, but I might move that to the Nano. My dilemma is I've already gone to a no dosing regimen for the Nano, and I think with putting a clam in there, I'm just asking for trouble in terms of having to dose again.
yeah. tricky.
Yeah, I know. That's 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 my thing. I see Derek here.
Uh, AJ, we got a Copperband for Aptasia. He's not eating. It's been hard. Try clams on a half shell. No luck. I would try the fresh manila if you haven't tried it. That's honestly the both of my Copperbands plus a couple buddies that has all worked for. So the 4 or 5 I've tried on have been basically 100% with that one so far. Poseidon, have you ever thought about adding mangroves to the shallow reef? I 100% have, and I possibly will one day. That was actually one of my ideas, was to have mangroves going throughout it. I'd have to change up the lighting a bit to make that work, something a bit higher over time, but I think it would be super cool. So it's definitely potential there. Derek, what do you think about the new ruler? I'm assuming you mean the Neptune's newer level sensor. I think it's cool that to have a readout and tell you what the level is, and I think there's lots of cool stuff you could do with it. I want some. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh! So the leak detector. I've been using that one on the hydros for a while, and I really like it. So that I've seen before, but I'm excited for Neptune. So I've decided to make one tank Neptune and the other tank hydros. So the nano tank is Neptune. I've gone full Neptune with it, including a sky. So that tank is all Neptune, and the other tank is hydros. So yes, I'm excited for the upgrades for the temp for the new leak detector. What was the other probe again? Oh, the optical sensor.
Yeah.
I've complained publicly and privately about the optical sensors, not
the new one or the old one?
Of the old one. The old one.
Okay.
The old one. So I'm glad the upgrade, and I agree with everything they've done. The little touch, like the small things make a big difference, because where I want to put it now, it's going to stay there. But yes, the ruler, I'm excited for that, for it to let me know. So even for you put that thing in your, let's say your ATO container, it not only tells you when it's at the bottom, it can tell you, like, are you in danger zone? Are you in the real danger zone? If you put it in your return area, it can tell you, are you this or are you running dry? In your dosing containers, like there were times when I didn't want to tuck liquid containers, for instance, my Alcatronic. I didn't want to tuck it far because I wanted to see when it's, when it's close to being empty. Because the software in the Alcatronic so bad, it never kept track of my liquid probably anyway. So I don't remember the price, but I'm excited for a few different things for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that sensor. Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if I like the aesthetics of it. I don't care what it looks like because it's hiding in a bin of water, so whatever. But I think it's a cool sensor, especially if I could do stuff like, here's one of my thoughts. The very first thing that popped into my head when I saw that, because I have not turned on my ATO in like 4 or 5 months. All my ATO comes from my calc. So my calc drip is my top off. Now, if I could program that to change speed based on the water level, so if my water's going down, then up the flow rate to my calc, beautiful. I no longer have to check up on it once in a while. It will just do its thing. So that's the very first thing that popped in my head. I'm like, heck yeah, I can automate all my calc to like maximize its potential. So I think it's cool. Aside from water bins, depending on the price, if they're reasonable, I'll probably throw them in my top off bins as well. Like right now, I have an optical sensor at the bottom that turns on my RDI to refill the bin, but it'd be nice to be able to pop it open and be like, oh, I have half my water left, right? So I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I want to see how. I don't know how it'll hold up in, like, let's say you put it in your alkalinity container. But yeah, for the ATO. And just another thing, while you were saying that, I thought of, look at my application now with my Sump being 1 water level, to know, because if my Sump being 1 water level, if something doesn't work and it's underfilling or overfilling, that's a big volume of water, right? Because you're talking a 20, 25 gallon area of water that's dropping by 2 or 3 inches. That's big.
Yeah.
Then for it to get refilled again. So yes, I'm excited for that sensor. I'm really excited for that sensor, and I'm anxious to see what Derek is probably more into automation. Well, not probably, more into automation than I am. So I'm anxious to see what he's going to do with that sensor too.
Yeah. My initial thing is, now I just need Ecotech, because I use Versas right now for most of my pumps, other than my alkalinity. But I just need them to integrate with Fusion now, so that I can control my Versa from Fusion based on the ruler. That's my wishing goals. Hopefully that happens. Need all this integration. But I think that's like the primo use case for me, at least.
So my versus Dev, I don't use the. I mean, I've so Woody in England, I traded the 4 plugs for the base unit because I needed to control my individual units. Because when alkalinity is tested high or low, I want to be able to turn alkalinity off separately. So the versus.
I see your logic. I just want to be able to control it from Fusion based off that level sensor. That would be what I would love. Yep. Tracy, what is your phosphates? My water box phosphate as of yesterday is 0.077 and my nitrates is 8.7. And the shallow lagoon tank beside me is loading. 0.003 phosphates and 0.05 nitrates. Pretty low on the nitrates. I should almost do some. Yeah.
Wow. So I went on vacation more than a week ago and I lost all my fish when I came back. I still don't know what happened.
Ooh, that sucks.
So yeah, I don't know what happened. So it's funny, as soon as I came back from vacation last Saturday, or I don't remember, the Saturday before, a friend of mine called me and said, I am taking down my tank. Do you want my fish? And I was so hesitant to take his fish because so my fish store is holding on to the fish for me. I need to get a UV sterilizer. That'll make me feel a lot better about taking his fish. But something died. My entire fish died. But anyway, I tested my nitrates. Nitrates were 5. Well, my phosphates were 0.6 or higher than 0.6.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, for it to be out of balance like that, 5 nitrate, 0.6 phosphates. That's weird.
Well, if something died, I mean, that could very well spike it up.
Well, a bunch of fish died, not something that. Yeah. A whole bunch of fish died. So, yeah.
That sucks. Yep. How do you? That does suck. Sorry, buddy. How do you keep your Mastertronic so dialed? I literally just recalibrated every few months. I actually did it a little while ago. Reef automation. Holy smokes. Thanks, buddy. Congrats on the baby. Hope you find some use for this for the kiddo. Glad to see you live again. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. That's a huge one. Much love. I appreciate it.
Oh, congratulations, man. Congratulations on the kiddo.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm excited for you.
A month already. It's crazy that he's already a month old.
Hey, time is going to fly.
Tiny reefer in the making. There was shout out to Aaron too. He got me like a super cute little shirt from that says Team ReefDudes. I'll have to find it later and post it. But yeah, super cute photo. You can kind of see the little bits.
Congratulations to your wife. Tell her I said congrats.
Thank you. And Derek, thank you again. Thank you. All right, so Lee, any advice for rescaping, keeping live rock alive? Keep it wet. If it dries out, you will lose your bacteria. If you keep it wet, most of it will still live.
Pretty simple and to the point, right?
Basically, don't let it dry out. If you do it underwater, I mean, no problem, but it's sometimes trickier underwater. But then again, it's trickier to do it out of water, then move it back in and still have the same structure, not completely forget about it. It just takes one rock to shift around and you'll lose it.
What rock brand are you using currently?
I am using Art Reef Rock in the lagoon tank, and I have Marco Rock in the other tank, and I also have some Aquaforest Rock here as well. So it's a bit of a special blend.
All right. For my next build, I am going to use the Elos. Francois brand.
The Rock Rocher. I'm probably saying it wrong.
Yeah. So Reefapalooza New York, they had like a nice structure together, which I was really excited with. So I just bought it. And actually, Shubi is holding on to it for me. So I'm excited to try something new. I've used Marco. I've used everything that you just named except the Aquaforest, which I've never just had access to. But I've always used Marco. I used the Carib Sea, Life Rock. I've used the other brands. I'm excited to try something new.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Reef automation, shout it again, buddy. That is like huge. Thank you. The Aqua Rocher stuff looks pretty cool. Like the one where you can kind of like just plunk them together, almost like have a tower and add on arms and branches and stuff. It looks super easy to aquascape with.
Yep, I
Yeah.
I had them set up the aqua. I had the aquascape. I bought the aquascape I wanted, so I am not going. I'm trying not to mess. Let me. You know what? Let me not even say it out loud. I lied to myself. I lied to you. I lied to people. Um. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
I'm.
Uh,
I'm struggling with equipment choices again.
fair enough. Let me know how it goes. Anytime I'm waiting to come on the stream, and congrats. Much appreciated, buddy. Much appreciated. Hella busy. I feel you, man. Between real job and YouTube job and baby job, life is crazy. Dun, dun, dun. There's a couple questions I missed that I can't find. If I missed your question, ask again. I know there's a few that I got distracted and didn't get to them yet.
There was one, so I'll help you. There is one about ozone. Are you still using the ozone from Amazon? Do you still recommend that brand?
I still have it. It is still here. It's not running at the moment, but I was probably going to throw it in the office tank just to have a bit of ozone love on it. It definitely still works, like 100%. How am I going to say it? It's hard. There's no like markings on the dial, so you're kind of guessing what percentage you're running it at. Like there's no like 1, 2, 3. Like there's no documented setting, so it's literally a dial and guess. So you're like, this feels like a quarter of a turn. Maybe it's 25%, but it is good bang for your buck for the price. The other thing to note with it is you do need to maintain it a bit more. It has a little disc inside for corner discharge, so every once in a while you got to take it apart and use a wet cloth and clean it. But aside from that, it works pretty well. Dedicated Reaver, thank you for the $3.99 super chat. So that's basically, yeah, it still works well. I mean, it's a very good like bang for your buck budget ozone.
Is that the same? Do you have? So that's the budget ozone, which
Yeah.
I have one of those, and I don't use mine for similar reasons. Means you have to physically flip a switch to turn it on. Like it's. Do you have like a Ozotech one?
I have an Ozotech as well, and I have that one on my big tank. Now the Ozotech one, I mean, it's better. It's not the cheapest one, but it is better built. It is higher quality. You can actually replace parts in it. You don't have to buy the new unit, which is nice. Now I actually cleaned it for the first time not too long ago, which is flushing it with RODI water, then basically blowing it out with an air compressor. So I finally did that for the first time, and I was way overdue for it. But that's the thing: you do that, you maintain it, then it's happy again.
All right. Yes, because my new tank is. So I have an Ozotech one, and I've been watching some of your old videos and other videos, Stan's video on ozone. And because the tank is 30 inches front to back,
Yep.
I think I'm going to use ozone to keep that, maintain that water clarity. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use the Ozotech unit, yes.
Nice. I think it makes a big difference in water clarity. I'm definitely a fan of it for that, like more than anything else. The other benefit is it does help cut down on any funky smells. So, it's kind of like a carpet in a way, right? Gets rid of the oceany smells. James Scott, what is a good way to tune a Nano skimmer? If you look at the logo on the Nano skimmer, there's a Q, and put the water line just above the Q, and that works with almost all the Nano skimmers, like just above the Q. About that deep in the water. Most of my tanks, I tend to have the output tube basically fully open, then just tune the air a little bit to where you want it. And that's worked very well for me. I usually try and make the bubbles so they're about the bottom of the cup, and then they have to work their way up to the rest of the cup themselves. That's my general way of tuning it. Heard of any negative effects on corals, in particular zoas? We got some of the reds are disappearing using Rora. I use Rorophos, and I would not say there's any negative effects from GFO, unless you strip your water completely. If you have zero phosphate, lots of corals are going to be pissed off. So GFO is a wonderful thing, just don't overdo it, or drop it too fast.
So I heard a story recently. This was told by Vic from Worldwide Corals. I don't remember if we were talking about it at Reefapalooza or saw it in a video where he said, he was walking by one of the tanks and all of a sudden everything just looked brown.
Yeah.
And he said the difference was usually they run GFO in a bag, and I guess an employee put GFO in a reactor. And obviously it works. It's a lot more. It works a lot more efficiently when you have it in a reactor versus just in a bag passive. So some of the effects that you might be seeing was maybe you stripping the water too fast, or the phosphate's gone, so the corals reacting to that. That's
In
that
my
could be.
early days of reefing, I definitely annoyed all of my acros in a tank from running too much ozone, or not ozone, GFO, and stripping it down too much. I learned that lesson in my early years of reefing. Yep. Uh, do.
So, Dev, is my mic sounding choppy? Someone said so. Should I change microphones?
You were sounding a little more echoey. Like it wasn't like. I mean, it's okay though.
All right.
It's not amazing, but it's not terrible.
All right.
Yep. Reef automation. You guys going to MACNA? I don't know yet. I've been debating it. To be determined. Are you going? Someone else, what you going to wrap to earlier in the chat?
I am going to wrap California, and I think that's going to be my last wrap for this year. I was thinking of also doing maybe Dallas, but
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough that time of the year. I might have to do some conferences for work, so no MACNA. MACNA is not the conference for me, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but not no. I think Reefapalooza California is the last conference for me this year.
That's fair. Mainly it's because of the newborn. I'm on the fence if I go to shows this year. Like the fall might be fine by then, but I don't know. Next year for sure, I probably will. This year I'm still back and forth.
You've always said next year, so I don't expect you, man. If I see you on the circuit this year,
Pre-pandemic, I was somewhere every month, constantly, and then it became a pain to travel. So then I did. Brandon Scott watched your video on cyanobacteria. Just about ready to do my tank. Do you have any thoughts and tips? Aerate your tank. Take off your skimmer cup. Let it overflow. Make sure you have lots of oxygenation. And I generally don't even bother doing a water change afterwards. I will just leave the tank for 3 or 4 days. Note your skimmer will go crazy for like 4 or 5 days afterwards. Just know that. Even a week. Just leave your cup off, let it overflow, and then you can do a water change if you want your skimmer to go back to happy. Otherwise, just let it overflow for a while until it's back again. But I generally don't bother the water change right afterwards, or wait an extra day or two over what it recommends. That's how I found the best experience with it personally. Dun, dun, dun. Poseidon, more upset because I'm trying to sell my tank and want to be good for the new owner. Footlong GSP. That's a lot of GSP. You can't kill GSP if you tried, so don't worry about that one. Yeah, with GSP, take a credit card and just slide it under the glass. It'll probably come off. GSP is like a bullet, though. You agree?
yes,
You concur?
I've tried GSP and Zoas and Xenia and Kenya tree. Corals I won't put in my tank anymore. I'm confident I could grow the heck out of those. So will I ever put them in my tank again? Nah.
Yeah.
I saw your Zoa rock, dude, and I'm trying not to let my wife see that video because she would be so impressed with that.
Dude.
And I'm trying.
My like overhanging one in my peninsula. Kate, did you see I have Zoas? Kate, this is like total like shout out to the Gen 6, but there are Zoas growing underneath the rock now. I was looking at my tank one day, I'm like, what the? They're literally like, if the rock is like this, they're like whoop, growing underneath it. It's crazy. I'm just waiting one day the whole bottom's covered in Zoas. It's gonna be cool.
So that video made me think I'm going to get the upgrades to Gen 6s because I was good. So
the Gen 5 is already good. Like, you don't need it, but it is nice to have.
I have 5 Gen 5s. Don't need. I think I was going to do 4 because it's a 48 by 30 tank. So I was going to, and it has a center brace. So I was going to do 2 and 2. But I'm thinking, I think I could get away with 3 if I have Gen 6s. So
you probably could. Like, I'm going to say you probably get on a 15, or a 30, like you probably get 6 to 12 inches more spread. You don't get as much par because they kind of take that hot spot and spread it out and stretch it, but it's very even. Like you run the par meter across, it's very, very consistent. I did a bit. Yeah, so go for it.
No, I was gonna say I've never ran those things anywhere close to 100% anyway. So I'm thinking
same.
I can up the par and use less units.
Yep, I think so. Here.
Yeah.
Go for it. Upgrade is super easy. Literally, the first one took a bit longer because I was filming it, but the rest of them, I literally did them in less than 5 minutes each. Just like 4 screws for the outside, four or five screws for the lens, one little ribbon cable. Like, it was pretty quick and easy to do.
I know you've gone all to Gen 6 Pros, but would you
Yes.
recommend like a 6, a Pro like mixing, or
I
not needed?
I heavily debated that doing Pro Blue, Pro. I heavily debate it because the blue just has a really nice color pop. Like, my Dragon Soul torch looked like extra good underneath the blue. But overall, I like the crispiness you can pull out of the whites, where you can have that very like crisp, vibrant look to all your corals, which it's harder to get out of the blue. That's kind of how I went with the pro, because how I like some corals better under the blues. Overall, I like the look of the tank, that more like vibrant crispness to it, which I have my tank in the daytime, then morning and evenings more AV plus looking. So you could under 100% alternate them. Looking at the tank, I could blend them pretty well so you don't overly notice. But when you see the fixtures, you can still see it's whiter or bluer, and then I don't know. My OCD likes it matchy match.
I think I might, for now. I think I might do 1 and 1 and just see what happens. But I do want. I've been seeing some blue coral. I've been watching Reef Builders, and Jake Adams has some really nice blue corals that I'm in love with, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you can see those properly if you do AB plus. I don't know. I'm all thinking this. I might be overthinking it, but I want to try the Pro. I want to try one of the Pro upgrade kits to see how it looks. I'm at least going to test it. When it came to the G5 Pro, I was adamant not going to do it, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's it's a hard one because the Gen 5 is already good. It already has good spread. It already has really nice colors. So it's harder to justify upgrading the G5 to a G6. Like, it does have more spread. It does have a bit better color. It's not night and day, but it's noticeable, right? If you didn't see them side by side, you wouldn't notice the difference. Like, if you had a Gen 4, 100% worth it, right? Gen 5 is harder. It's harder. But if you have a blue, say you want a pro or you want a blue, that's another good excuse, right? Or you sell your license, buy new ones. It's, I don't know. Personal decision. It's a tricky one.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. Greg and I always joking. Greg is like, "Hey, that's hard to do under the blues because Ecotech disabled the blue sliders."
What?
And I know. He's kidding
Oh,
because,
it's like, what?
but I want to experiment. I never tried a G5 Pro, and I feel like I have to try a G5 G6 Pro
What do you have
just to
now?
see
Gen
the
4?
difference. No, I have Gen 5
Okay.
blues
Okay.
all
Okay.
across the board. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I have one. The rest are all pros. Uh,
But if I get a Pro upgrade kit and I don't like it, you can still find some. It's going to be useful to someone because then you can upgrade another G5 to it. So I
yeah, just
think
get one
it's
and
one
try
of
it.
those things where, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why not? Why not? Come for a visit.
why
I'll show
not?
you mine.
Yeah, why not?
Um, yeah. Come for a visit. You can see mine. I can tell it's the same 8 years ago. You shave like me now too. What? Like this? I like my beard. It's good. Run mine real white at the beginning of the day. It gets harder. Yeah. So in mine, I go very like blue in the morning, from around like 10 a.m. or noon to 4 a.m. I have it very white. It's very like, it still has like vibrance and pop, but it's very white and crispy. And then after about 4 p.m., it slowly gets more bluer throughout the night. I like that way. I kind of feel that the whites and all the extra color channels, that little bit of and extra par, I feel like it helps with growth and color. It's kind of like the high noon, like cook your coral period of the day for me. Plus, I think it looks good. So that's kind of how I have my schedule. Now I get asked all the time about my schedule. If you Google ReefDudes Mobius schedule, I believe, or G5 schedule, I did post it a while back. So if you want to try mine, you can download the file, throw it on your tank so you like it. I'm still running basically the exact same schedule now on the G6s. I might still tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, I'm still using like 99% the same as my G5 schedule.
Um, I got you. I got it.
Yep.
I want to try.
Niagara fire corals. What's going on, Steve? Uh, Green Greg. I say that because no one knows how to get more whites out of the blues. Yeah, you have to lower the blues to get more whites, basically, because they have double the blues. But yeah, as long as you're not running at 100% anyways, it's not a big deal. If you're maxing it out, then yeah, you're going to be limited. But you lower it, you still got lots of string to play with. A round of fiberglass on the aquarium build. Alex G, you're going big, buddy. I like it.
I know.
I know.
I saw someone the other day. I forgot where we were. Someone was talking about a big tank, and Alex says, I think Alex dropped like a comment. I'm like, that's not fair, Alex. Your tank size doesn't compare to anyone else's. So
That is next level. It's huge. It's gonna be awesome.
I think at some. I don't know if there's no Rap Chicago anymore, but I saw it in person, and I feel like at some point, Dev, you have to see it in person.
Oh, I would love to. Love to. One of these days we'll work on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where's my other thing? I had a bunch of questions I pulled earlier from ones in email that were on my to-do list to get to.
Oh.
Brian. Since we're talking about radions, here's one around the thing. Love your channel. Passion for reef keeping. Thank you. Bought 5-foot water box peninsula. Build your light rail. I have 2 Radion XR15s. Currently building LPS. Plan to get 2 more Radions. Saving up. Wanted to ask if you had 4 Radion Gen 5s. Did you run AB Plus template? What's your schedule? No. So there you go. Just kind of talked about that one. If you Google ReefDudes Radion schedule, you will find it because I did a video on it and I did post it. I even made a video on how to import the schedule, so got the full package deal on that one. I was up watching videos till 3 a.m. Love the Acro updates. Thanks, come a long way. Thank you. Much appreciated, man. Another question. Help. I cleaned my Reef Octopus 250 INT skimmer, and now it won't skim. I get the pot of boiling water. Usually when you get that, most of the time it's the venturi that's your issue. It's not sucking in enough air to get you into your nice bubble column. So a lot of times like that little venturi can get plugged up. And if you just poke something in there, clean it, run water through it. Or sometimes if it doesn't have enough suction, I've seen people, you just lift your skimmer up a little bit and it like sucks in the air all of a sudden, it kicks everything and starts working again. So I definitely try one of those. Producer Reef, I'm gonna need you to change all the membranes on the RO. Also, may go 1 Pro, 1 Blue Light. Get the best of both. I was highly tempted to alternate them. I think it could be a cool way to do it. And you do get the best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah. I was muted and I was asking a question. Do you think that, back to that skimmer question, do you think maybe he cleaned with vinegar and it just takes some time for that to, because sometimes when, depending on the skimmer, if you dip your hands in the water, for the skimmers that are really sensitive that you have to tune slow, sometimes dipping your hand in the water, you cleaning the skimmer or you're dosing something, sometimes it can, take a while for the skimmer to get back to where it was previously.
Possibly. I don't think I've ever had it not skim, but I mean, I cleaned mine for the first time in ages the other day, and I used citric acid in like a big brew container. I just turned it on and threw it in basically and let it run for a couple hours until everything just falls off. I just realized you can't see my camera right now. Sorry, yo.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I'm watching you on
the delayed 30-second version.
Yes.
Excellent. Question or confession. I've used tap water to cycle a tank. That is a gamble, DC. You're a brave man. If you are using it to kind of like cook rock, not cook isn't the right word, to cycle rock, I mean, you could probably get away with it, but I would do a massive water change with like legit proper salt water afterwards. But here's the thing. You could be in like a municipality or a town that has like awesome water with like not much nasties in it and you're perfectly fine. Or you could be somewhere with really nasty water and it could be terrible and just inviting algae down the road. So there's no like straight answer because it really depends on your water.
Yep. Greg Carroll is like, you already did it, DC, so there's nothing to do now. Just
this is true.
You have to do a bunch of water changes. Well, it depends on what you test in the tank. So.
Yep.
That's
You'd
true.
have to test it.
see, the reason why I wouldn't do it is because now I don't know what's in it. So I'll probably have to do an ICP test or something. And then if something happens early on in the process, I'm going to always think. So I think, so right now, my tank isn't fully up yet. And I'm probably going to use either Tropic Marin or Brightwell salt as my
Yep.
salt. But now I just buy Instant Ocean and just use it because it's cheap and I don't have to worry about anything. So during my cycle process, just
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
just don't want to worry about what's going to happen. I want to eliminate that from the back of my head. Like, did you screw up when you were doing this?
It's true. I mean, I have seen nice tanks ran on tap, and I've seen people in well water with really nice tanks, right? So I have seen beautiful tanks without RO system. But again, it is a gamble based on your water supply, and most of us don't know unless they post it and you have all those water reports. And even then, I mean, it could be issue free. It could have some algae you fight with forever and never know why, and it could be some weird thing in your water feeding it. So it's a risk. But yeah, I would totally just do massive water change before you start adding livestock after, just to lessen any potential bad impacts.
I have one. I want to answer one question. He said, if I do a water change over a month, it's pretty much gone, right? I'm going to say not necessarily, because if you do 50%, then half of it is gone. Then if you do another 50%, then half of the half is gone. And then if you do another 50%, half of the half is gone. You still, so
I'm
I
down to
think
like
it's best.
15%.
Yes, I think it's best if you can do the big water change all at
Yeah.
once. But to say you do 50% now and then 50% later, that's not 100%. That's not how percentages work.
Yeah. I would do one big one all at once.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. Doesn't Reef Crystals have a detoxifier? Not that I know of. Now, you can get, I've seen those like sponges that you can get for like filter pads, and they're like doped with all kinds of like metal absorbents and different things like that. Or something like Brightwell Pureit, like that will absorb a lot of like heavy metals and other nasties. Now, if you want to like super cheap out and not do a big water change, you could consider running stuff like that, right? Because you basically just want to suck out all the nasties out of the water before you add corals and other stuff. So maybe you only do 50% water change, but maybe you run Pureit afterwards, something like that, just to like, or those sponges, something like that, just to suck out all the nasties. It's another consideration. If you're only going to do like a smaller water change, then I would consider that as other options.
Yeah,
Or you just do a full water change and get like
yeah,
98% of it. Your call. Yeah.
yeah. DC, but DC has a lot of gallons, so um,
How big's your tank, DC?
yeah, I wonder.
Two something, I
He,
think.
yeah, I think total he's I think he has
260, 220.
two. I think he's 200. I think he's about. I'm guessing about 200 gallons because he has a 200 gallon and a 225 plumb together. So yeah, he's
Yeah.
about 225.
Yeah. Huh. There you go. Brandon Scott Art, no RO, not anywhere in Florida. We are red tide state, among other things. Yeah, see, if you just know you got weird water issues, like you just need RO. It's just worth it. Like, even in my early days, like I started with hauling the like buckets. You go to, those like jugs of water you get at the refill stations for like $1 or two. You go those, and I'd be there for my 5 gallon buckets filling them up. But it's so much work to do after a while. Like it's worth buying an RODI system.
So on the question of RODI, man, my RODI system really crapped out over the weekend. I had a
How do you
what is
have
it? A
that
pure.
luck?
I had don't. It's a Puretech unit. You know the one that beat Marine Depot. I bought it when Marine Depot was going out of business. It's a Puretech unit. Puretech, not Spectre, to Puretech. And I was going to fix the computer. And I spoke to the guy who manages my LFS, and he said he has a lot of them where just little issues with the computer. And since no major dealer is carrying Puretech right now, I
Mm-hmm.
just took the components. Excuse me. I just made it like a dumb unit.
Yeah.
So it's now just a dumb unit.
What did the computer even do in the first place?
So the computer so the computer basically turning off your booster pump would troubleshoot issues because it had sensors everywhere. So it would tell you there's no water going into the membrane, there's no water going here, there's no source water. So it kept telling me there was no source water, but there was source water. So I
Hmm.
took everything apart. I thought maybe, hey, there was pressure built up air pockets that was blocking it. Nah,
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my BRS unit. I had like a, I think it's in my friend's warehouse, but I have a BRS unit that I hooked up so many TDS meters to it. I knew the TDS coming in, TDS after the first membrane, TDS before the first membrane, TDS after the first membrane, TDS after the second membrane,
Yep.
TDS before the DI, TDS after. I think I'm gonna go back to that.
Source water, output water, and then, well, okay, I do source water, pre-DI, and after DI. And then my system with two DIs, I have source water, output water, after DI1, after DI2.
Yeah, me too. Because otherwise, you don't know. You, I do that. I did that. The rest of them. I just had TDS meters lying around, so I didn't know what to do with them. So I did them. But
Yeah.
I really feel it's important to know if you have the dual water saver unit. I feel like it's important to know after the first D, because otherwise, if you have TDS, you don't know which DI failed. It could be the first one.
Well,
It could be the second one.
true, true. Okay, so this is also what I do on mine. On the system that I have with two DIs, I always, so the first DI is going to be the one that fails first, right? Because that's taking the hit. And then your second one's kind of like your backup DI. So whenever I change the first one, I take the second one, put it in the first position, and then put a new one on the end. That way, you always have the first one's the one that's going to take the hit, and the second one's kind of like your backup.
Dev, I feel like me and you are like brothers from different countries and from different parts of the world. You're on the west coast of Canada. I feel
Yeah.
like me and you.
Do you do the same thing?
Yeah,
Man.
of
Good man.
course. Yeah.
But yeah, then it's like your backup, right? I always try and have like backup things, like
Mhm.
back up your backups.
Yep.
I finally bought one of those little on BRS had this little watchdog water alarm thing for like $15 on sale. So I finally bought one after spilling water of overflowing and leaving a solenoid open. So I bought one of those now. So I'm gonna have a nice loud annoying alarm to tell me if I ever forget it again.
I have float valves in everything. And for when I need to fill buckets, I got one of those e-shops unit that clips onto the side of the bucket that has a float valve.
Hmm.
I don't have a watchdog unit, but you remember when you had my aquarium box?
Yes.
I think I subscribed to that for a little bit. And a few things that I got that are still useful is the little things that you put down. They look like little bells, and you
Hmm.
put them down, and they alarm
Oh yeah.
when it's sort of like a watchdog, but it's just a unit that when the two contacts underneath touch water or moisture, they alarm. So that's what I use because my RODI is under my kitchen sink, and if there's a leak under there, I won't know. So I put plastic bag down, then I put a whole bunch of paper towels down. Don't tell my wife. And then I put the little units on top of that. So if water spills anywhere, it usually reaches the unit.
It's a good idea with the paper towel just to help it like suck it over closer to it.
Yeah, that paper towel, even with those sensors we were talking about, the Hydrus and the Apex ones,
Yep.
you can cover a larger area with a paper towel. So with my Vertex unit, I would put, like paper towel is usually, I would put 2 sheets of paper towel under my Vertex calcium reactor and then put the leak detector. So if there's a leak anywhere moisture touches the paper towel, it usually eventually gets to.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife heard that when she gave me the evil eye with all the leaks I've caused. Yeah, um,
I've
I've had
learned that
I've
lesson over
had
the
my
years.
I've had my neighbor, my downstairs. Um, yeah, yeah. So what I do now is I do not bring buckets across the house. I have hoses and I have enough hoses that I use those little clips that I daisy chain together.
Hmm.
So outside my window, this is to the back of the building that no one walks. It's
Yeah.
just a New York City alleyway. So I pump. I have a Ultra Zero, and dude, like that thing can empty your sump in minutes, and it just goes. And my
Yeah.
neighbor, my downstairs neighbor,
You're like,
um,
why is it raining out today? Salty.
well. The thing is, I've caused her distress in the past, but it turns out she keeps a turtle tank, and she's like, "What do you do with your water?" I'm like, "I pump it outside," and she says, "That's a great idea. No more sloshing buckets across the apartment." So I'm like, "No one walks out there, and there's a huge drain out there that goes straight to the sewer." So I'm
You
like,
walk outside, there's like a fish and turtles living in this pond. You're like, huh, where'd that come from?
yeah, it's an alley.
Yeah.
It's it's non-accessible to the public. It's
Hmm.
just the fire escape goes there, and then
Yeah.
there's like a storm door where if you need to exit, you can exit, but no one ever walks behind there.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, that works.
yes. If
But
you look, if you pump water out there and it's a hot day and it hasn't rained, you can see some salt streaks. But once the rain comes, we're good. No
it's gone
evidence
again.
left.
Gone again.
Mhm.
The one, yeah. So okay, because you guys were talking about not hauling bucket, that is honestly like the biggest benefit of like automating water change or something is you're not going to spill because you're not hauling buckets around or hitting things or dropping things or spilling things. You know, even if you only manually kick it off, saving you hauling around buckets of water is going to prevent spills, right? Little hoses, little pumps do it for you. Way safer. That's my thoughts.
Yep, I
Yep.
agree. I that's why I was comfortable getting a bigger tank because I hauling buckets. I think it's over for me. Like I said, I have enough lengths where if I need to pump water to my tub, I can connect some hoses together, and I can. Yes, I'm very.
Yeah.
And I forgot what they're called, but there's these little clips you get from BRS that's easy push connect fittings, and the
Hmm.
ones that when you disconnect them, they actually lock the water in. So even when you're rolling
Ooh,
them up, yes,
that's nice.
they,
Ah, that's
yes,
what the advantage of those are. I've seen those
yes,
on the
they,
website. I like that actually.
yep, they lock the water in. So you're not, so when you're rolling, so there is a ball valve on one end, and when you disconnect it, it locks when you
Yeah.
disconnect. So when I'm rolling hose up, I'm not dragging salt water across the apartment.
Hmm. Which is big.
Yeah,
Tracy, auto water change and auto top off. Yep, and auto refilling your auto top off. It's a good life right there.
it is. So it takes about 20. I can do a full water change once the water is mixed up in about 20 minutes. It takes 10 minutes to pump it right out the window, and then another 10 minutes with the Ultra Zero to pump it into the tank. And since I'm using the sump, it takes about 20 get the area the sump that I was telling you about. It's about 20 gallons, and
Hmm.
my bucket that I'm using, my brew trash can, is about 20 gallons. So it's a
Yeah,
1-to-1 match.
perfect. That works well. I have lines that run off my RO and drinking water into my sink. I thought about doing that actually, running a line up one of these days, so a little piggy tank to like do drinking water. I should have two RODIs in the tank. I'm still drinking tap water one day.
You
Yep.
know what? You know what, Dev? Uh, Silly enough, I thought about that the other day because where I was just talking about my RODI unit, I actually tap the sink to go to the RODI unit, and then
Yeah.
above that, I tap it to go to the fridge for my ice
Nice.
maker, actually.
Perfect.
But then my ice maker, I had to clean it the other day because something happened and I'm putting unfiltered water into it. And I'm like, you idiot. You have the
Yeah.
same line there, and you can just get the drinking water thing. And like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
it's all in the same area. Like you don't have to run anything new. And I thought about it as like, yeah, dude, you've been missing out.
Yep. Wise. Should do it for the
Mhm.
baby bottles. Probably true. I should do it.
You should because I don't remember why, but I remember we used to use distilled water for
Hmm.
formula. So you already have RODI water, which is better than distilled. So what are you doing, Deb? What are you take advantage of it?
I know. It's getting a hose to the sink is the challenge. But yes, I agree. There's a will, there's a way. It'll happen at some point. The wheels are turning. It's just
Yeah,
finding a way to somehow fish a wire there.
get a bottle, 2, 3 gallons, and just fill 2, 3 gallons at a time, especially for making formula,
Yeah.
and just start there.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, DC has a good question. I don't know if you want to jump to it.
How do y'all wife feel about food in the freezer? Mine is not a fan. Mine's on my outside freezer, not the normal fridge freezer. And I also have like a beer fridge with like a mini kegerator, and all my fresher like the reef nutrition stuff, all that stuff's in the beer fridge. So it's not in the normal people fridge; it's in the ulterior fridges. And then the outside freezer, I have a little wire basket, which is like the fish stuff allowed zone. Nowhere else.
My wife is not a fan, but luckily with our freezer, we have vegetables and meat separate. So
Yeah.
if I have fish food, I have to double Ziploc bag it, and it's there.
Hmm.
So she's not a fan. She's not a fan of anything fish related being in the kitchen. If
Yep.
I need to take some scissors and cut something real quick, she doesn't want me to go back. That doesn't go back in the kitchen a lot. So the other day, actually, I don't know if I coined a new term with Greg and some other people. I called it reef junk, where now that I am trying to see what I have so much junk, and a lot of it is because my wife doesn't want me to use her scissors, so I ended up with a bunch of scissors.
Yeah.
Um, the
I'm
first time,
sorry. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you first, sir.
No, I was just gonna say with like some of the comments, like, "Oh, my wife helps me make food," and some of them are like, "I am the wife." I have to like separate everything. Nothing can cross the kitchen stuff. So like my own measuring things, own beakers, and yeah, I'm like, oh, this is one I use for fish stuff. It's like my little measuring thing with a handle on it, and got the fish edition.
My wife helps me make fish food, but that's because when I made it the first time, I made such a mess that she's like, "I'm gonna help you do it, so you don't make a mess this time."
Oh, well,
Um,
that's all
but
right.
she's become really. She doesn't want the stuff mixed. And whenever we watch YouTube videos, or she sees me watching a YouTube video, and it looks like someone is like washing us. Oh, the worst. I get it. I get the evil look when it looks like someone's washing like the skimmer in a sink. I think I was
Mm.
watching a video once and it looks like someone, I forgot if it was Milev or someone, looks like it was washing the skimmer in the sink. And dude, I think I got the evil look for days. Like, the look where it's like, if that ever happens, like, I'm like,
You're
it's not even
getting in trouble
me.
for someone
It's not
else's
me.
videos.
Yeah. Someone said you need to stand up to his wife. Yeah. Poor, I feel sorry for myself too. When it comes
Yeah.
to this fish stuff, like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
AJ recirculating a skimmer with a CO2 reactor. Added a Davy Lone skimmate locker. Now my skim is gone. And my media is be wasting so fast. It shouldn't really make that much of a difference because that just drains it out, right? As long as that skimmate locker is sealed, I don't see why it should affect much in that aspect. So I think something else is going on there, but I don't quite know what. Um,
Recirculating skimmer with two CO2 reactors. I added a Davy locker to catch skimmate, and now my skim is gone. Um,
like your
do
skimmer's not
you?
skimming? I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
confused, I
I
think.
think maybe the way they've. I don't know what's happening, but maybe the way they plumbed it, the air needs to escape, because if the air is not escaping properly, remember, air needs to come through the skimmer, right? All the air that it's sucking in.
Hmm.
So if it's being uh,
If it's sucking it through the skimming locker, maybe.
yeah, or if it's not getting a chance to escape and it's just building up in the pressure of the cup, then it may be pushing the skim mate down. So I actually bought, Fisher Hex was making this recirculating kit where you
Yep.
actually, so for the Nios, where you plug those little holes in the Nios. And
Yep.
the first time I hooked it up wrong, and it was not skimming, and it was because of that.
Oh, interesting. So it
Yeah,
could be some weird
I
pressure
don't
thing
remember
going
what I
on.
did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I don't know
Yep.
either. I
Saltwater and
got nothing
lime
on that
said the
one.
same thing.
Yep.
Yep. Saltwater and lime. If you limit the air intake too much, you won't get enough bubbles made. Yeah. Yeah.
If I clean the skimmer, my wife knows for sure I cleaned the dishes.
Oh,
It's a win-win.
oh hell no, dude. I clean the skimmer at night when everyone is in bed because smell.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't get the smell anymore. I put calcwaster in the skimmer
Does
cup
that
now.
work well?
Absolutely, that 100% works.
Hmm. I'm gonna try this.
One
Whenever
hundred percent that works.
every time I clean my skimmer, I hear this. What's that smell? I like close the bathroom
Yes.
door, turn on the vent fan, open the windows.
Tip: you use more calc. So I have to buy. Instead of using the small packs, I'm now buying the bigger packs.
Yeah.
And also, every now and again, you kind of have to vinegar your skimmer cup because the water and it builds up a crust in it. You can
Mm.
imagine it's kalkwasser and it's water. So every now and
Mm.
again, like maybe every 3 or 4 times I empty the skimmer cup, I
Yeah.
kind of have to put vinegar in it and clean it.
Interesting.
So, but it works.
I've tried it, but I didn't do it again. I don't fully remember if it worked for a big difference or not. I'll try it again. My interest has been repeat.
Mhm.
Thanks for the
What
reminder.
what skimmer are you using on your big water box tank?
Nios 220.
You have the 220.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually the 160 on my smaller tank, and then I upgraded to the 220 for the big tank. So I have NAS in both tanks currently.
Right. I have the 160, but I'm gonna run a Royal exclusive 200 on the big tank.
Nice.
Um,
Like,
yes. Yeah. Dev,
I've never used Royal exclusive. It's too fancy, but I'm curious because they look nice.
I've used them before, and I'm really
Yeah.
the build quality. They pull so much air. The pump is huge. It's not as
Hmm.
quiet as the Nios. Definitely a difference. It's not skimming well right now because it's made to skim a big tank, and I don't have a big tank. But I'm a big fan of Nios. Well, also supported by EcoTech, which because I've had a problem with my Nios pump, and every time they ask no questions, and they just
Yeah.
send me a new pump. So
I
I
I
am.
I actually my motor died on mine, like it something buggered up on it, so I warranted it. Same thing, right? It's like super awesome warranty, and I've had it for many tanks now, so back in business, is all happy again. Easy to tune.
Yeah,
It works well. I wish
I
it was
like.
a DC pump, was like the only small wish, but it's very quiet for an AC pump, so it's not really enough to worry about. But that's my only like mini wish, if they like updated to be slightly quieter, like with the DC. But it's quiet, like it's super quiet for an AC pump. So
Dude, going from the Nios 160 to the Royal exclusive, even though they're both AC pumps, there was a huge difference in noise.
yeah.
A huge difference in
Oh
noise. The
yeah.
Nios is so quiet. Yes, I'm a big fan of the Nios, and then I like the Nios. Like everything is just tuned. It's easy to tune, and
Hmm.
then you have different tuning levels where you can, tune the air. You can tune. You can do a
Yep.
standpipe, and then by accident, I realized you can actually turn the standpipe and push the thing down
Yep.
inside the standpipe. So that, dude, I stumbled on that by accident. I'm like, what the heck is this? I knew it was there, but I've never used it. But
Do you
I'm
know?
a big fan of Nios.
Do you know what's funny? Actually, on my 220 on my water box, I had it fully open anyways, so I ended up actually just taking out the standpipe because when I did my recirculating calc, I didn't really need the silencer anymore. So I don't even have a standpipe. It's just wide open now, and it's like just the water height just works perfectly like that.
Mm.
So it worked out well.
So I always had a question for you. So whenever I am running my airline outside, I always take the silencer off the skimmers.
Yeah.
I'm always curious. You always seem to connect the silencer. I get rid of the silencer because to me that's
I
I
got
don't
rid of
need
it
it.
too when I did that. Same thing,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah, I got rid of it too. It gives you more airflow, right? As long as you don't need to restrict it, but you are restricting it to a sense from that extra tube going outside or wherever else. So yeah, I've always removed it too. As long as your
Yeah.
water level's right, things are happy.
I have one negative about the Nios though, Dev. One
What is
negative.
it? What is it?
When I first saw the Nio skimmers, they looked like they had these cool lights in them, and then they didn't. You remember? Do you
Tisk
remember
tisk.
when they first demoed that? I know. You remember when they first demoed them? They had like lights in them.
Oh, that's
Uh,
funny.
you don't remember?
No, I'm
Well, they had
googling right
these.
now.
They have these when they first demoed them. I don't remember if it was interviews or what. They had
Ah,
these blue lights in them,
that's
and
funny.
then when the skimmer, it's probably for marketing. It got
I
me,
see it.
but
Yeah, I found a
yeah,
photo. Well, you could put a light in your skimmer if make you feel
you
better, you know?
could, but it doesn't make it work any better.
Yeah.
Probably one other electronic to clean some now.
Yeah. Port Wolf, if he had kelp in his skimmer cup and it boiled over while he was away, could it have killed his fish? Don't know how much he was using.
No, I'm not using that much. I am using maybe a teaspoon, and I
Hmm.
also have a skimmer sensor, skimmer cup sensor.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
DC, sometimes the cup's hard to take off the neck. Yeah, I always just grab the piece for the neck and I grab the bottom and just twist it and it comes off. I actually ended up breaking mine. One day I got to buy a new lid, but it fell down the stairs onto the tile and then cracked it. And I just acrylic glued it and it's fine. But one day I'll have to replace it.
so one thing I always break, and I've broken it 3 times on my Nios, is the ozone port. I don't know why I keep breaking
Really?
that thing every
How?
time. Every time I need to disconnect the ozone, I'm just a. My wife says I just always brute force everything first, and dude, like I have three. I just broke it again the other day, Dev. So I have three. I just put some silicone to just block up the hole
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna run ozone. Dev, I have three of those silencers with they all. Uh,
Ay, ay, ay.
I don't have any good reason. I don't have any rhyme or reason on why I've done it. I just always seem to break it.
That happens. I haven't broken mine yet, thankfully. So only thing I did is crack the little dish inside the lid because I fell down the stairs and went wah, 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 like, down like 15 feet and hit the tile. But then I just glued it and it's fine. But
Yeah.
Fernando, do you guys have any thoughts on the new Kessel? I don't know what the new Kessel is, but I'm assuming it's like the 360X or something like that. That's the newest that I know of, unless there's a new one.
I think there is the AP9X.
I'm Googling what's new.
Yeah. I've
Oh,
used the 360
A500X.
A500X. Oh, you don't? I've used that. I like it.
Yeah,
For
not this one.
specific
Here.
applications. Yeah, I
This.
like it. I just don't love the price for
Probably
seven
that
hundred
one.
and sixty nine bucks. For $700, I feel like it, for the price it is for any of these new gen Kessel lights, except the AP9X. I feel like we could have gotten onboard controls. You pay that light right there that
Does
you
it?
see.
Wait,
That's
wait, wait,
seven
wait.
sixty nine.
It the 500X doesn't have onboard control still.
No, you have to buy the little dongle.
Still?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't like dongles.
I I was running it. That's the application I had when I was
Hmm.
running it like 5 feet over the NEM tank and had it focused in the NEM tank. It was a 500X. And yeah, you have to buy the dongle. It doesn't come with a dongle. It doesn't come with any onboard control at all. You have to pay after you've spent 769 on a light. You have to then spend. So that's why I say I like it, but unless for very specific applications, I don't think it's worth it. You can get an XR15 and get really awesome spread. This light was released in 2021. I don't think there should have been any lights released in 2021 from a premium manufacturer that doesn't have any kind of onboard control.
You're
I
right.
really, yeah,
The Kessel
I
dongle lets you control it.
yeah,
I don't know. I just think the dongle is janky. Like it should be built in. Like you
it
have to
is
have these like
janky.
little funny looking things hanging off of it. I don't know. That's my rant.
Yeah, they do have something called the AP9X, which I think is two 360s in a big panel, and that has onboard controls. But Kessel isn't exactly known for their onboard controls per se.
Okay. So here
But I will
is.
say, go ahead.
Sorry, I just found it. Because thank you, Alex. Kessel W2K 720 watt LED.
Ooh,
It looks like a studio light type of dealio.
W2K. Give me the model number again. W2K.
Yeah, Kessel W2K 720 watts. So that's a ton of watts. That's more like public aquarium type of thing, like a big spotlight above it because made to mount on like a light rail.
Uh, so, Dev, you do video.
I do
And I think
videos.
once I don't know if you when you came to NYC, if you went to B&H,
I did
but
not.
there is
I
an
would like to though.
there is an entire section. So I'm looking at where you scroll. I'm looking at
Right
the
back.
behind you the web page.
Yeah,
There is an entire section. Kessel makes a lot of studio lighting.
they do.
Like what you just yes, there's an entire section in B&H for
Yep.
studio lighting. I went to one of the studios and I was shocked. I forgot years ago my wife and I were going for like in the audience for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they were using all Kessel lighting.
Huh. It's not called Kessel. It's called something else. Like not Felix. What the heck's it called?
Back then it was Kessel, but I think they
Okay.
changed his name for the studio lights. It was
Yeah.
Kessel. Hmm.
I forget what it is, but I have seen. I did look it up one day. But
Yes.
yeah,
It's not called Kessel anymore. They've changed the name now. But
I know.
before it was Kessel, it was called Kessel. It was Kessel.
I feel like it's called Felix, but I don't know if I'm right. Felix Lighting. Maybe not. But yeah, no, they do. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you make LEDs or lights, right? There's tons of applications for it. Like,
Well,
okay, so that hardcore Kessel light, where I would probably use it is if you had like a really big aquarium and you somehow like mounted it like way up in the roof and you're shooting it down really far, assuming it has a narrow beam angle. Because it would be cool to have a tank with no lights above it, right? Have everything hidden. I think that would be kind of cool. That's like the one scenario I could see it being useful. Like given it 720 watts, like that is extremely overkill for any average aquarium. So that's made for like a really big tank. But looks kind of cool.
I would, that's exactly how I used it. And here's the application I think I would use it again. If I was somewhere and I needed a look down tank, let's say you had a frag tank and you didn't want lights over it, you wanted it to look down. Yes, that's exactly how I used it. It was beside my TV. And if I used a Radeon or anything else, it would be so much spillover into my viewing area for my TV. So I mounted the lights 5 feet above the tank and used the narrow reflector, and I put it high enough where the lights were just getting, to the edges of the aquarium with
Yeah.
anemones. So it was anemones that didn't need
Yeah.
like to be lit from multiple sides. So it worked well. Felix was the controller by David Hasselhoff.
I remember that one. Yeah, I know you're talking about with the little like Knight Rider back and forth LED thingy on it. No, it's called something else, but yeah, it was.
I know what you mean. I think back
Can't remember
then
the
it
name.
was Kessel though.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Now, what would be cool? Someone should do this. But I saw, I don't know, the magazines downstairs. There was Boyd, like the Chemi Clean People's or Jellyfish Aquarium, or one of the two. They had like a cool magazine of like really cool aquariums, like really fancy ones. One of them was like this in-floor lagoon tank. So it was just like basically like a lagoon in the floor of your house, and that was like the reef tank, which would be super cool. Like that would be a perfect example. Just put that little baby up on your roof, out of sight, shooting down at it, and have all your stuff underneath. That's where I would use that light. That's the only practical use I can come up with outside of public aquariums or like Alex's tank, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
I'm interested. Maybe, eventually when. Yeah.
Yep. Alex G's the only one that can justifiably run that light.
You're right. So it's called Felix, Fiilex.
Yes.
Yes, it is Felix. You're absolutely right. But I think, like I said, I think back then it still had the Kessel name on it. Because Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was years ago. We're talking 8-9 years ago. But yes, I think they've changed the name.
Yeah. See, I was right. Felix. I knew it was something along those lines. So totally studio lighting.
Yeah.
Yep. Tracy, I'm a fan of the shimmer. Do I have shimmer interest? Yeah, some people love the shimmer. I do like this shimmer, but I also like the blanket of light for like growth. I don't know, it's trade-off. Like the contrast in the shimmer look good, but at the same time, it's super high contrasty also means lots of shadowing. It's not as good for growth. There's always this battle of like the different lighting aspects. Yep. Saltwater pond. Sure. You should do a saltwater pond. That'd be awesome.
What are you going to do with your fish over winter, though?
I don't live somewhere tropical. If I did, I would consider.
I know. We can't do it. It's going to be too much work over winter to winterize a pond or take the fish out.
If I can retire somewhere close to a beach and like pump some ocean water in for water changes one day, then I'll make it happen.
So I guess Australia then.
That'd be all right. But yeah, I don't know. If you live somewhere tropical, I think it'd be really cool to do it.
Prince Edward Island? Hey, Florida?
That's not tropical. Yeah, Florida maybe. Who knows? But you got to live on the beach. You got to be by the water. And you need a really long hose to make this happen. Always wanted to put a couple Kessel between the Radions. Yeah, I never see people mix them, but it probably would be cool just to add in the shimmer on top of it. I'm curious to see how, like, would the Kessel between two Radions give you enough shimmer? Or would it overpower it enough to give you those shimmer lines?
I'm just worried about the hot spot you get, or if I had a big enough tank and I didn't want to spend enough for full cover, I don't know. Because to me, like the Kessels, this is where I struggle with the Kessels because I don't think they're good value because the price is so high. I think you can get more Radions for coverage. So if you're doing it for shimmer, I don't know if I'd spend.
It'd be shimmer only. I know.
Yeah.
It'd be expensive, but I don't know. Someone tries it. Let me know how it looks. I'm curious. But yeah, I agree. Oh, that's what Ryan does. Does he still have it? I know he temporarily did it. Put Kessels in with his guys.
Came home, you ignore me.
Dun dun dun. Baby, I'm live.
Say hi to Dev. He has a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yep. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be fun to see. All right, guys. What other questions you got in the chat before Will gets in trouble for ignoring his wife all night?
I wouldn't trust the water by a shore at a regular beach for my tank. You would need to get, yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that is. You'd want like outshore, which is really long hoses. In the hardware store, every chunk of PVC pipe they have just go in the distance.
I know, there's some places. I remember, I think when Greg started his tank, he had someone come and brought natural seawater. But even in England, natural seawater is. There's a guy who delivers natural seawater. It's more. I'm wondering why that isn't more popular. I know we're a bigger country, but I want to know if the reefers in Florida, if the ability to get natural seawater. Yeah, I'm getting beat. The ability to get natural seawater is a benefit. I don't know. Is that something you would have access to up where you are?
No, but I don't live right on the coast. I think if you lived on the coast, there would be potential. Like, I've heard of people saying public aquariums would sell it, like, because they probably pipe it in. But if you lived on the coast, but again, you don't want it right offshore because that's where the nasties float into you, right? Like, generally, if you are going to use it, you want to collect it offshore because that's where it's more pristine. So, I don't know. If I lived on the beach, I would probably try it. But if I lived far from there, I don't think I ever would.
If I lived in Long Island, certain areas in Long Island, I think I would try because I know Paul B, who's had his tank for years. I think he collects and uses it. But yeah.
But at the same, it's a lot of work too. Like if you're trying to collect your own, like that's a lot of work. Unless you have like some big pump system in a boat or something. I don't know. A lot of effort. So
yeah, but wherever you go where there's boaters, I don't want it. So
yeah, I know, right? That's the thing, right? You go through all this effort versus buying a bucket of salt.
True.
Yeah. If
True.
we
and
retire,
if you need it at that scale, I am pretty sure you can find someone to sell it to you at bulk. If you need natural seawater at that much scale where you're considering it, then I think you can get artificial salt at bulk, right? Where you can get a good deal.
usually collected on the end of an incoming tide. Huh. I don't know. Like if I had a massive tank and it was available locally, I'd probably do it for my initial fill, just to like, boom, full. Because you would also have possibly get a bunch of like good bacteria and stuff. Well, who knows what you'll get, but I don't know if they filter it. But yeah, you never know. When we get a local aquarium in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. Yeah, so some places have it for sure. I'm in Florida, polluted near the coast, shallow, stagnant near the Gulf Coast. Yeah, so you do have to be careful where you get it from. If you're on some tiny island somewhere, you're probably safe, but any big city is probably highly questionable.
Hey, if you're going to retire to the Cayman Islands or Jamaica, just...
Yep. Niagara Fire Corals, what salt are you using? I am using Brightwell Neil Marine on my tank. What do you know?
You're using Brightwell right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been using it for a while, actually.
Yeah, I'm using Brightwell right now, but I need to get some in bulk.
Yeah. How do you like Brightwell? Have you been using it for a while?
I like Brightwell. I love Brightwell. Brightwell or Tropic Marine is my kind of two go-to. But if I had to say the best, those two. Brightwell's a little expensive. But if you ask me which one I would use, Brightwell.
Yeah. Okay. I've been using it for ages, so I'm curious to hear other.
Yes. It's just that now I'm in the process where the tank is cycling, so I would just use the Instant Ocean. And then when it comes to water changes, I'm getting serious about coral, go to Brightwell.
You're cycling, use whatever's cheap and available.
Yes. Not tap water, though.
That's highly questionable, DC. I mean, who knows how the water is DC?
Oh, he's not in DC anymore. He's in the DC area. Yeah, you got to change your name to like
DCA?
Maryland Reef here. Or DMV Reef or something.
DC area, DCA reefer. That's why I use tap water. So saltwater and lime. I used to use Brightwell, but I've kept my elk at 10 for a long time, so I'm scared to drop it that low. Now, if you do a massive water change, ideally you want the elk in your salt to be similar to what your tank is. But if you do small water changes, it's likely going to have very minimal impact. Like on my 200-gallon tank, I usually don't do more than like 5 or 10 gallons, and the difference in elk or whatever, not a big deal. But if you have a nano and you do 10-gallon tank and you do a 5-gallon water change, that's going to be a big impact. So some people buffer it up. Ideally, pick a salt that's similar to what your tank is at, then you just don't ever have to worry about it. Or if you just don't do mass water changes, then it's not really a consideration. Well, it depends.
And and I saw a video from someone. I don't remember who was you or someone where I it had me thinking, and I did some calculations. Like, man, you might as well just if you looking for high alkalinity, high calcium, high magnesium, just dose it yourself. Like it's a lot more economical to use that salt and then dose it yourself rather than buy a salt that's
Mm-hmm.
elevated and everything and you're paying a premium for it.
Yeah, I agree. DC, I'm going to run pure when it comes time for livestock and do a big water change. Good man.
Yeah. Also, one other thing about the salt is I think the salts with high alk, high everything, they just mix to me, as with the Red Sea and stuff, they just mix dirtier. There's more restrictions on how you use them. So I'd rather just use the salt, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine, and then just dose.
Yeah. No, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, if you have a nano and you're relying on everything from it, just keep your parameters where the salt's at. That's the easiest way to do it and not worry about it. But if you have a big tank, yeah, 100% just dose rather than trying to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
buddy.
I do not use reef crystals at all because my mixing container just gets so dirty and I am just worried about dosing that to the tank. So
Okay,
I
so
stay
okay,
that's one salt. I use Instant Ocean.
I yes, Instant Ocean is much cleaner than reef crystals. I used both of them for years when I first got into reefing, and it did. Nothing bad ever happened from it, but it always bugged me that my all the brown and all the nasty that was in my brew containers all the time. And I'd have white bins too; it'd be even nastier. But yeah,
Yeah. Now that I'm using the Ultra Zero, I'm like, oh, all that crud. Because before,
mm,
when you're using a CJ, that little inch of water would always be there, and then you'd clean it out eventually. But now I'm
down to the
pumping,
last drop.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more concerned now. So yes.
Ed, would you do manual or doser? I would generally do a doser. I even manually dosing, like I manually dose the Reef Moonshine or trace elements, but it doesn't happen every day because I forget about it. It just happens probably like 3/4 of the time. So I would absolutely use a doser just because then every day is there, it's consistent. You're not going to forget about it. You're not going to overdose it. It's just consistency, and consistency is key for happy corals. So personally, I would always do a doser if available. 100% can do it by hand, but then you're relying on yourself to remember, not to skip days or not to be out late and forget about it and yada yada yada.
True.
What does regular Instant Ocean mix at? I don't remember. I feel like it's probably 9, but I might be off.
10.
10? Okay. There you
Someone
go.
who's using it now, 10-ish. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. Calcium reactor and as much calc as possible if number one for dosing. Okay. If you have a normal tank, calcwaser is a great way to do it. If you have a nano tank, like an all-in-one or something, there's no nice way to get your calc above the tank and have it look pretty. If you have a sump, then calcwaser is a great way to do it. It's all in one. There's all free, which I haven't tried yet, but the all in one solution is kind of a cool idea. But yeah, like on my prior tank, I calc got me way further than I expected it to just calc. Like right now, I'm maxing out calc plus calcium reactor plus dosing elk, but it's because I have tons of coral in there now, right? None of them can really fully keep up on their own, so I'm doing a special blend of everything. But
Are you a fan? I used to do this on my Nano, but I would mix up the calcwaser in a dosing container and then dose it over the course of the day. Is that something you've ever done? You,
no, because you got to keep mix it up almost daily. It's too much work.
no, I would mix. Well, yes, I would mix up about 2 to 3 weeks worth. I would get
Okay,
a
that's
big
not
enough
bad.
container, but
Mm-hmm.
then you'd have to replace your dosing heads very often.
To me, it's always been too much maintenance.
It
Um,
is because they clog. Like
yeah.
if you're dosing too little, it clogs up the dosing head because you have this really potent calc sitting in the dosing head,
Mhm.
and anything happens, it gets hard. Yes, you have to. Yes, you're right. It's something I've done before and not I just keep corals that are not that sensitive in nanos now. I just do the water changes.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's easier. Like my Red Sea Nano that I used to have literally did a 1 bucket water change, like 5 gallons and of 20 gallons every week or two. And it was it. Like I had a doser on there and only dosed like 2 or 3 mils a day. And that all I did is do like a 1 bucket water change every week. And the tank thrived. It was happy. It looked amazing. Like it just so easy. It worked well. If you have an all-in-one calcster, I don't think aesthetically, I don't think it looks good having this big thing behind it. But if you have a sump and space to hide it all, then calcster is a great way to start because you get the pH boost. You're getting your calcium and your alk and all that stuff in one. I don't magnesium. Like I know the Brightwell's one does have some magnesium into it. I think you still might have to dose mag once in a while, but it does minimize how much you need to add. I mean, if you're just doing water change as well, you might be fully sufficient there. But calc is a great way to go if you have the space for it, just because it's all in one. And bigger pH helps your tank grow faster, which is good, especially on a new tank.
I had this crazy idea to put a shelf over my kid's tank.
Yeah.
And then use like the Avast Marine calcster. It's not gonna look pretty, but have it drip.
Yeah. See, that's the problem with like as a nano. Like I wouldn't want all that gear sitting above it.
Yeah.
Like yes, it would work, but I couldn't do it.
Struggling with too much. I'm already struggling with just too much gear and not anywhere to put it because the nano's in my kids' room. So I'm already struggling with that. So yes, you're right. To add, sometime I just need to be talked out of these nonsense ideas that I have.
Don't do it. Well, okay, here's the thing. Especially as your kids' room, like there's potential of them knocking over the calc, all this other stuff, right? Like it just opens up a whole can of worms that's best to be avoided, in my opinion.
True.
Yep.
True.
But if you have a stand, great idea. If you have a sump, great way to do it. But if you're an all-in-one where you have to pump stuff up, then I would just stick to dosing.
True.
In my opinion.
True.
Yep.
True.
All right, buddy. I think I might call her for the day. But I appreciate you busting it home to make it and coming on tonight. It's been a fun chat.
Always a pleasure talking. Thank you for having me on. Thank you. I'm huddled in my bedroom just because we have some family over. So I appreciate. Always a pleasure talking to you, man. And congratulations again on the addition to the family. And I can't wait to see you, man. I can't believe it's been like 3 years since I've seen you.
Way too long. I appreciate it. I know. I miss it. If not this fall, the next year for sure. But
all right. If you're going to the Reefapalooza Dallas, I might change my mind. So let me know.
All right, we shall see. Dedicated Reef Automation. Thank you guys very much for the super chats. Much appreciated. And yeah, any other questions we didn't get to? I don't know. Probably in a couple of weeks we'll do another random Q&A stream because they're fun.
All right. Thank you, Dev. Thank you for having me. Always a
pleasure.
Buddy.
Thanks, buddy. And everyone watching, as always, you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. You're probably already subscribed, but hit that like button. Yeah.